Hello. 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 I'm back. It's Thirsty Thursday, and I'm having an energy drink. I think it's the weather change. You know what I mean? I hope you guys are having a good day. Hello. Happy Thursday. We're back. It's like hot one day, summertime here in Cali, hot AF, and then it's raining and cold. And it's like, wait, you know what I mean? It's like the temperature in my body change, or yeah, and my body does not like that. The temperature change is what I meant. But hello. Okay, let's see. What are we getting into today? I know not everyone is into the how cold is it? Well, it's not too cold now, but it was raining a lot, like all last week. It's really windy. It's like 65 here now today, but just a few days ago it was like 93. So I'm like, oh, when there's a change like that, it gives me a headache, you know? But I'm fine. I'm just complaining a little bit. I'm freezing, says Cree. Yeah, I bet you are. Yay, new member. Thank you, Casey, for becoming a new member. I appreciate that. Really helps the channel and does not go unnoticed, truly. I write down all my members on my notebook, but we will be doing a members only live this weekend. So that'll be fun. I haven't done that in quite some time. Okay, so I'm not even that like familiar with a lot of the drama and the Karen Read stuff. Like I said, I kind of stopped covering it after the trial was over, just because I know there was like journalism things going on, drama, lawsuits, and now there's like a gazillion lawsuits, right? I can't even keep track. But we were going to read Turtleboy's affidavit today, so I'm going to move that to tomorrow, and we have more lives planned for tomorrow. But today, this morning, the document dropped. Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert, Colin Albert, and Brian Higgins are they basically are filed a civil complaint against Karen Read and Turtleboy. So I might not know all of the facts of all the drama, but I can hang. So I'm curious what you guys think. Like, is Karen Read responsible? Do you think others in the house were? Because some of these people were there in the house. But let me know. I'm curious. Do we think Karen Read killed John O'Keefe, got away with it, or do you think she didn't and it was other players involved? I'm curious. It's a long document. We'll see how much we can get through. I might break it into 2 parts. I didn't for the hearing and it was fairly long. So shout out to you guys who watched that. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Pizza. Hi, Saza. Hi, Pointer Lover. Good to see you, Angel Eyes. I see Lemon Pound Cake. Casey became a member. Hello. Welcome to the Babelets. Cree's here. Debbie. Did I say Debbie? Hi, Debbie. ATS. What's up, girl? ATS will be covering the hearing as well. So I'll probably be over there hanging out with her. I like to get different perspectives and support my friends. So you guys should too. Hi, Psycho. Hello. Casey K's been waiting on you to go live to join. The way a certain dogged you the other night pissed me off so bad. I really appreciate that, Casey. I really do. We're going to talk about that on the members live. So yeah, I think this points even more to Higgins. Okay, I know it's crazy. And honestly, we're going to read the document. I can't tell you guys for certain, like, yes. Hey, Q, good to see you, love. And hello, living life every day. I'm cleaning. If you ever have, okay, living life, you should email me. I would love that. I love to get information and stuff from other people too. That way, you know, we're a community here. Yes, she is. She's amazing. But you know, so I can't be like, okay, yes, I know that he did this, Turtleboy or Karen Read. It's like, I don't even know what I think of it. Sometimes I think, yeah, maybe Karen could have done it, but it's only from experience of being in a toxic relationship and fighting and drinking, which everyone goes through that stuff, right? We all have been through stuff in the past. But I mean, he died a pretty brutal death, in my opinion. So she was found not guilty. So there's that. Other times I don't. I think absolutely it wasn't her. So we'll see. But you know, Turtleboy has been there. That's how I heard of the Karen Read case. So I'll give him that much. But there's a lot that's gone on. So we're going to get into it. It's a pretty long document, like I said, but it's really good from what I've heard. Okay, Psycho, thank you for being here. I think Karen is innocent, in my opinion. I've always kind of leaned towards that. Yes, Bella, I did see that. I have, yeah, I'm really excited about that. Good for her. I think she makes money and it helps her mentally. Well, the thing is, she's being sued by all of these people, her and Turtleboy. So let's get into the document. I'll put chat up on the screen as well. This just dropped this morning. StreamYard. Let's see. I know Turtleboy is going to give a public statement about it sometime today, I think. So I'll definitely keep my eyes out for that. Let's get started. So filed today, like I said, Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert, Colin Albert, Brian Higgins versus Karen Read and Turtleboy. Only she knows if she did or not, but her story and actions are sus. I think a lot of it is sus, to be honest. The sad thing is, like, with all of this, it's like, okay, justice for John O'Keefe, but I feel like with the drama, it's like 𝗠𝗲𝗃𝗃. I haven't even been doing lives on Nancy because it's a whole nother world. It's a whole nother beast. But I will be doing an update on Nancy soon. You know, the drama, of course. Yes, Bella, that's great. Thank you. I knew that was coming. Oh, I see. Beautifully broken. Let's get started. Complaint. Introduction. This case arises from a multi-year conspiracy orchestrated by Karen Read and Aidan to subvert and prejudice the criminal justice process in Norfolk County, Massachusetts. Through a coordinated scheme, Read and Kearney sought to protect and enrich themselves by defaming, harassing, and tormenting the plaintiffs who served as witnesses in connection with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts investigation into the death of John O'Keefe and its prosecution of Read for his murder. More specifically, Read and Kearney conspired to defame and did defame the plaintiffs by falsely asserting, among other things, that they are responsible for O'Keefe's death, conspired to conceal their roles in this death, and framed Read for the murder. Which is, yeah, obviously, right? We all know that, you know, a lot of people believe the players in the house are responsible. It's a fair opinion. We're allowed to have opinions. I'm not defaming them, but it's just the truth. The plaintiffs are now and have always been entirely innocent of any involvement in O'Keefe's tragic death. Read and Aidan calculated operation to assassinate the character and reputations of the plaintiffs has caused incalculable harm, subjecting them to a daily tidal wave of hatred, harassment, and intimidation. While the damage to these plaintiffs has been catastrophic, Karen and Aidan's lies have also caused a rupture within Canton, Massachusetts community, poisoning the community's cohesion and discourse. No, I will say, they do that with the corrupt police and system. But anyways, that's just my opinion. Karen and Aidan's lies, which were amplified by a vigorous public relations campaign, tainted the criminal prosecution of Read and deprived the O'Keefe family and the Commonwealth of the justice they deserve. The plaintiffs bring this civil action to finally hold Read and Kearney accountable for their wreckage and their conduct has caused and to prove in a public forum governed by the rules of evidence that Read and Kearney individually and collectively pursued a deliberate scheme to spread lies about the plaintiffs, used social media and other amplification means to achieve maximum penetration of those lies, and enrich themselves through their ill-gotten celebrity. Whoa. The parties, defendant Karen Read, obviously, on January 29th, 2022, an intoxicated Read struck O'Keefe with the back of her Lexus SUV, incapacitating him and ultimately causing his death. Are they allowed to just say that in this document? Like, she was found not guilty in court. Yes, beautifully broken. Yes, she's now being sued by the Alberts, the McCabes, and the Higgins. We knew this was coming. We totally knew. And the journalism has been a little out of control. I don't hate on Turtleboy. I don't have a problem with him. I like him for what I see sometimes. So it's like, but it did get a little crazy there for a minute. Turtleboy actually harassed so many people and entered himself into this case. I think it's JLR's twin from different parents, says Lemon. Wow. Yeah. They're allowed to because it's civil, not criminal. Oh, okay. I see. So they're allowed to say that she was responsible. But this is their case that they lost because of what they did. Well, how this is going to play out in court, like, it's probably going to go to trial. It's wild. On June 9th, 2022, Read was arrested after being indicted by a grand jury for second-degree murder, manslaughter while operating a vehicle while under the influence of alcohol and leaving the scene of an accident, resulting in death in connection with her causing the death of O'Keefe. On July 1st, 2024, a jury failed to reach a unanimous verdict on the charged offenses, and the court declared a mistrial. In 2020, that was the first time. In 2025, the Commonwealth retried Read, and on June 18th, 2025, the jury convicted Read of driving under the influence of alcohol, but concluded that the Commonwealth failed to prove Read's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt on the remaining charges. Defendant Aidan, aka Turtleboy, is a resident of Holden, Massachusetts. Kearney owns and operates the website TB Daily News and is responsible for the content that it appears on that website. Kearney also owns and controls the YouTube channel Turtleboy Live, his Rumble channel, his Facebook account, an X account, all under the handle of Dr. Turtleboy, the Instagram page under the handle Turtleboy News, and TikTok account under the handle Turtleboy Daily News. Kearney monetizes the content he publishes on these various platforms and outlets by selling merchandise and advertising, and by asking for donations to his Cash App account at $Uncle Turtleboy. In 2023, a grand jury indicted Kearney on witness intimidation charges related to his conduct towards the plaintiffs. The grand jury accused Kearney of harassing the plaintiffs, charging him with 8 counts of witness intimidation, 5 counts of picketing a witness, and 3 counts of conspiracy to intimidate a witness. This is crazy. Turtleboy has like a plethora of lawsuits he's dealing with. And we saw one of them with one of the ex-girlfriends last night. Is this like Afro Man? Cops did wrong and sued him when he called it out. But she was proven innocent. I dated a cop one time and only one day became so vindictive. It's insane. Yeah. Corrupt truths. 100% had to stop what I was doing to type that. I fully agree. Let's continue. Plaintiff Jennifer McCabe is a resident of Canton, Mass. McCabe testified publicly and under oath at the trial and retrial of Read. She also voluntarily testified as a witness before state and federal grand juries. The plaintiff, Brian Albert, is a resident of Norwood and retired sergeant of the Boston Police Department. Brian Albert testified publicly and under oath at the trial of Read. He also testified voluntarily for the grand juries. Okay. Next is Colin, his son, I believe, is a resident of Canton. Colin testified publicly and under oath at the trial of Read. Okay. And Brian Higgins, who I call Higgy. He's from Sandwich, Massachusetts. I didn't know there was a place called Sandwich. He is a special agent with Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives. Higgins testified publicly and under oath at the trial of Read. Okay. Non-party John O'Keefe was a resident of Canton and a police officer. Non-party Alan Jackson was Read's attorney and David Yannetti. So they're not in this lawsuit, but they're like as plaintiffs, but they're definitely mentioned here. Or I said that backwards. TV and Read are not friends anymore. I know. That's why this is crazy, because Karen Read and Turtleboy were strong together, and then now it went sideways. Factual background. On January 29th, 2022, in the middle of a snowstorm, Read struck O'Keefe with the back of her Lexus SUV while she was driving drunk, leaving him to die in freezing temperatures on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road in Canton, Mass. Read repeatedly told first responders on the scene, I hit him, and made other incriminating statements, including telling the police that she did not see O'Keefe enter 34 Fairview on January 29th, 2022. An investigation into O'Keefe's death resulted in the arrest, indictment, and prosecution of Read for his murder. Jackson and Yannetti represented Read in connection with the Commonwealth's prosecution. Shortly after her arrest, and consistent with her several admissions of liability, Read's counsel, Yannetti, told the court that O'Keefe's death was caused by an accident by calling the charges a tremendous reach and explaining that Read had no criminal intent. In January of 2022, Kearney's occupation was that of an aspiring internet personality with limited reach in the greater Boston area. He primarily commented on sports and other media reports. Kearney's objective was to attract attention to himself in order to build a brand and monetize his audience. To do so, Kearney routinely engaged in provocation and courted controversy. While he described himself at times as a journalist, in fact, Kearney has no journalistic training, editorial standards, or oversight. Ooh. The launch of the defamation campaign. Despite her several admissions of liability, by the time she was indicted and arrested on murder and related charges in June of 2022, Read had set in motion a defamation campaign to falsely blame others for O'Keefe's death and to escape responsibility for her own culpability. Prior to her arraignment, Read falsely denied responsibility for O'Keefe's death and, contrary to her prior admissions, falsely stated to law enforcement officers that she was not responsible for John's death. Instead, she falsely claimed that John had been beaten up by Brian and Colin Albert. Dun, dun, dun. A lot of people believe this. Read knew this statement was false and that Brian Albert and Colin Albert had nothing to do with John's death because she knew she had hit John with her car, causing his death. Read's false accusation against Brian and Colin Albert was recorded on a police body cameras and released to the public during a pretrial hearing in April of 2024. To facilitate the spread and publication of her lies, Read founded and enlisted Kearney. As of April 2023, Kearney and Read, through an intermediary and Read's counsel, began communicating with one another to further Read's defamatory scheme against the plaintiffs. Kearney described the intermediary as a copy and paste vessel that just sent messages between Read and him. Read used an intermediary and her counsel to respond with Kearney to conceal the defendant's relationship and to create a basis upon which she could plausibly deny her role in Kearney's false claims. Pursuant to this scheme, Kearney would publicize and widely disseminate Read's false claims about the plaintiffs and others in an effort to destroy the reputation of these individuals so that Read would evade responsibility for causing the death of John. Wow. That is just crazy. I can't believe this. As part of I saw it coming. I really did. As part of the scheme, Read sought to launder defamatory material by gratuitously, including its pleadings filed with the court. For example, on April 12th, 2023, Read, through her counsel, filed a discovery motion for a second time to obtain Brian Albert's phone, and when she falsely stated that Brian Albert and Colin Albert were responsible for John's death and that McCabe was the mastermind who covered it up. Read knew that these statements were false. Read, through her counsel, also attached several non-public documents to the filing that had zero relevance to the narrow issue before the court. The purpose and part of those extraneous non-public documents was to convey them surreptitiously to Kearney, who would then amplify the public dissemination of the defamatory material, all in furtherance of the defendant's defamation scheme. For example, Read attached an unredacted copy of the Canton Police Department's incident report that listed the private addresses, cell phone numbers, and social security numbers of the plaintiffs. Read made this filing in direct violation of Massachusetts Supreme Court Rule 124 and did so for the purpose of giving this information to Kearney so that he would further disseminate Read's false claims. Who started the lawsuit? The cops found, well, there's been another one, right? Wasn't there? I read one about the defendants like not that long ago. How much do you know about Turtleboy? I know a lot, I think, but not like because I know him personally, but just from watching and stuff. But I don't want to say a lot of it here because who knows? You know what I mean? Like at this point, everyone is suing everyone on YouTube. With this whole JLR and now this, it's just like, it's wild. After this filing, Read, through her intermediary, forwarded her April 12th filing to Kearney for the purpose of Kearney publishing and did I already read that? And widely disseminating her false statements. With encouragement and direction from Read, Kearney published his first blog post days after receiving these false statements from Read. Indeed, prior to Kearney's April 18th, 2023 publication, Kearney shared his draft blog with Read through her intermediary, who provided Kearney with dozens of corrections, which Kearney understood to be from Read. After Kearney received and adopted these corrections, Read, through her intermediary, texted Kearney, quote unquote, "amaze ball sauce," and "thank you so much." Then, on April 18th, 2023, the defendant's defamation campaign went public when Kearney published the first two parts of his Canton cover-up series. In part one, Kearney states that Jennifer McCabe did not kill John O'Keefe since she's not physically capable of that. Brian Albert and Colin Albert and the dog were more than capable of that, and Colin Albert had the motive. McCabe was just quarterback of the cover-up. He also explained that Jennifer McCabe would have never been able to cover up this murder without the assistance of law enforcement. Kearney admitted that he had made these statements based on beliefs relayed to him by his quote-unquote sources. Although not identified at the time, these sources were Read and her legal team. In part two, Kearney posted screenshot of people's messages to him that were critical of his defamatory statements. He made no effort to redact the names and proceeded to publicly mock them. Kearney claimed that, quote unquote, most people are shocked and outraged about the mountain of evidence indicating that O'Keefe was unalived by fellow BPD Sergeant Brian Albert, his nephew. Oh, it's his nephew. Why did I think it was his son? His nephew, Colin Albert, and possibly others. In reality, this blog post by Kearney, like numerous other defamatory statements that he made, was funneled by Read to her accomplice Kearney with knowledge that he would publish it. To Fox News, Kearney later explained that after he published the beginning of his Canton cover-up series, his blog, quote-unquote, exploded. He had a, quote-unquote, record-setting audience with over 500,000 views. Elsewhere, Kearney explained when he would first go live on his YouTube channel, he would usually have about 300 live viewers, but he had over 2,000 on the first night during his first live stream about the Canton cover-up. She worked with him. She did some detailed vids about him. Yeah. His turtle people too. Yeah. With his newly found audience, Kearney was now able to disseminate Read's false narrative to an even larger audience as Read intended. Indeed, given the success of the first show at publishing and disseminating Read's false narrative to a wider audience, Read's intermediary told Kearney that Read's counsel, Jackson and Yannetti, wanted to speak directly with Aidan. The conversation between Aidan and Read's counsel occurred on April 20th, 2023, in which they spoke about Read's campaign. Kearney secretly recorded that conversation. I know there's a whole thing going on with that recording as well. 2 days after speaking directly to Read's counsel on April 22nd, 2023, Kearney made additional false statements at the direction of Read. In episode 575 of his weekend live show, Kearney repeated Read's false statement that O'Keefe was killed inside 34 Fairview during a fight with Colin Albert or Brian Albert. During that show, Kearney also used the phone numbers that Read and her counsel intentionally made public in their April 12th, 2023 Rule 17 motion. Kearney used those numbers to call McCabe and Brian Albert and directly accuse them both of a cover-up. Kearney's voicemail left on Brian Albert's phone asked, quote unquote, "Did you unalive John O'Keefe or was it your nephew Colin? And are you covering for him? How did your dog get downstairs and begin biting Mr. O'Keefe?" Ooh. Later, and this is just, I'm shook. Later in April 22nd of 2023 show, Kearney shared images of the Canton Police Department's incident report, distributing to his thousands of followers the private addresses, phone numbers, and social security numbers of the plaintiffs. I didn't realize that had been done if it was. Oof. As a direct result of that, like the socials and all of that, as a direct result of Kearney publicizing their personal identifying information, which he received from Read, the plaintiffs, who were not generally recognized or responsible for O'Keefe's death, began to experience disturbing levels of defamation, harassment, and abuse by members of Kearney's audience. This is exactly what Read intended when she began to use Aidan to disseminate and publish her false story. It's actually crazy that this is going on because Aidan and Karen Read are like not cool. They're not cool anymore. So now they're in this lawsuit tied together and being sued together. Like, are they gonna be friends? If I were her, I would just separate. I would just pay to separate at this point, considering everything else that's going on. TB followed their kids, posted some serious, disgusting things. Not good. Indeed, minutes after Kearney's April 22nd, 2023 broadcast ended, Yannetti, who was watching the live broadcast, messaged Kearney congratulating him. Quote unquote, "That was priceless, dude. Great effing show. Really enjoying the turtle reporting." Yet, Read and her counsel repeatedly deceived the public about Read's coordination and relationship with Aidan, in part because they knew that Aidan, as a defamation mouthpiece, could subject Read to civil liability for defamation and related civil misconduct. For example, during a September 2023 Boston Magazine interview, Read and her counsel stated that they had never been in contact with Aidan. The statement was false and intended to hide the fact that Aidan was carrying out Read's defamatory scheme. Moreover, 20 months after telling Kearney that his April 22nd, 2023 show accusing McCabe, Brian Albert, Colin Albert of being involved in the death of O'Keefe was a great effing show, Yannetti disavowed Read's relationship with Kearney. In an address he gave at Boston College Law School on November 11th, 2024, regarding Read's first trial, Yannetti said he had concerns about Kearney and that he was someone, quote unquote, "you want to keep at arm's length." Yannetti also said, notwithstanding his undisclosed direct and indirect communications and coordination with Kearney, that Kearney's tactics, quote unquote, "are not the tactics of a refined defense attorney." Similarly, Jackson publicly denied communicating and coordinating with Kearney. In an October 18th, 2024 interview, Jackson denied involving Kearney in Read's public strategy. Yet during that same interview, Read acknowledged she had communicated with Kearney frequently, but she admitted that disclosure, claiming that the only two The two only spoke in the quote unquote months leading up to her March 2024 criminal trial. On April 24th, 2023, Kearney published part 10 of his Canton cover-up series, wherein he again accused Miss McCabe of covering up a unaliving and pretending to be a compassionate person while a completely innocent woman faces decades in prison. In response, Read, through her intermediary, messaged Kearney stating, quote unquote, please tell him that article might be his best so far. Kearney responded, quote unquote, really? That from Read? Question mark. The intermediary replied, yep. Since April 2023, Kearney has published 545 parts to his Canton cover-up series, along with countless of other pieces of content, including posts on X and YouTube, falsely claiming that the plaintiffs were responsible for O'Keefe's death. Kearney's content has spanned thousands of tweets, hundreds of blog posts, hundreds of YouTube videos, and countless other public statements across a variety of platforms. Kearney has continued to spread his harmful defamatory statements in interviews with multiple sources. This is just out of control. Out of control. He went to their jobs, posted pics of their kids with some horrific things, and they were minors. Why can't they just let things go? The world has gone nuts beautifully. It has gone nuts. He even went to the little kids' sports game just to get in with Karen. Well, whoever did all that should be on trial, or is that Aidan? They're saying it should be Aidan, yeah, on trial for this. Ugh. Lawsuits are nasty, man. The conspiracy continues, part B. Read and Kearney continued communicating before, during, and after her trials to coordinate their defamation of the plaintiffs. Read and Kearney agreed to act in concert and use their defamation of the plaintiffs to subvert the Commonwealth's prosecution, to attract an audience, and to monetize that audience and their celebrity. In furtherance of this scheme, Read regularly funneled non-public information to Kearney using tradecraft, such as intermediaries, so that Kearney could selectively publish at Read's behest certain non-public material for the purpose of casting false suspicion on the plaintiffs and away from Read. Read instructed Kearney to falsely claim that he had not received information from Read, when in fact he had done exactly that. So they're saying, nope, she set this up, and Aidan together. I mean, come on, you guys. It's been one of the biggest cases of all times. So yeah. Yeah, it got a lot of attention. Yes, people hate you, Jennifer McCabe. For example, not me personally, I don't care, but like, it's bad. For example, on April 23rd, 2023, despite having already publicly accused Colin Albert of O'Keefe's murder at Read's direction and encouragement, Kearney inquired of Read's intermediary regarding how Read knew that Colin Albert was ever at 34 Fairview on January 29th, 2022, after O'Keefe allegedly arrived. In response, Read responded, quote unquote, Brian and Nicole and Chris and Julie all testified he was there, but I can't send testimony because it's sealed, end quote. That statement was not true, as no witness ever testified that Colin Albert was at 34 Fairview on January 29th after Read's vehicle arrived at that location. That's crazy. Sorry, I needed to take a drink of my energy drink. But yeah, I know. That same day, Read also informed Kearney through the intermediary about the details of an alleged non-public, ongoing, separate investigation, apparently related to law enforcement's investigation of O'Keefe's death. In a message to Aidan, Read stated, quote unquote, not public. The feds have been involved longer than anyone is likely guessing. Moreover, on December 1st, 2023, Kearney posted a YouTube video in which he included audio that had been recovered from O'Keefe's phone by investigators. Wearing a Jackson Yannetti 2024 t-shirt that is for sale on his website, Kearney played audio from a voicemail that Read was leaving for O'Keefe at the time she found O'Keefe's body, incidentally capturing McCabe calling 911. At that time of Kearney's YouTube video, only the Commonwealth, Read, and Read's legal team possessed the audio file. I bet that's the one that they're fighting about, right? So they're saying, nope, Karen Read gave it to somebody. Aidan. Eventually, Read and Kearney started communicating directly for the purpose of sharing information, coordinating the timing of defamatory publications, and aligning Read's litigation strategy with their shared public defamation campaign. To do so, Read utilized Signal, the app, an encrypted messaging system that avoids detection and aids deletion of communications. Read and Kearney ultimately exchanged over 189 phone calls, totaling more than 40 hours in 2023 alone, not including the countless messages exchanged through Signal. In conspiring with Kearney to defame the plaintiffs, Read knew that Kearney's and her statements blaming the plaintiffs for the unaliving of O'Keefe were false because in reality, she was responsible for O'Keefe's death. So did they subpoena Signal or Aidan's phone? Because how do they know, like, whatever number they said of the text messages and stuff? What was it? 40 hours, over 189 phone calls. Oh, was Signal subpoenaed? The same day, and after the meeting with Read and her counsel, Kearney posted a YouTube video reacting to Jackson's press conference after a court appearance. During this video, Kearney stated, quote unquote, John O'Keefe was murdered by Brian Albert and by Colin Albert and that freaking dog and every other single person in that house who remains quiet to this day and participated in the lie. They're all guilty of the murder as far as I'm concerned. They're participating in it, he said. By accusing every other single person in that house, Kearney intended to include McCabe and Higgins in his defamatory statement, a fact that his followers would have understood in light of prior publications. The thing is it's all on YouTube. There you go. All the YouTube videos will be exhibits in the trial. Crazy. Crazy, crazy. Hi, Evie. On May 24, 2023, in conjunction with publishing part 39 of his Canton cover-up series, Kearney published a YouTube video reacting to Jackson's press conference following another court appearance. In this video, Kearney stated, quote unquote, Jennifer McCabe and Brian Albert were involved. They are covering it up. In a subsequent blog post, he continued, quote unquote, the McCabes have the look of evil in them when you see them in person. These people are with no shame and aren't the least bit deterred by the fact that millions of people know that they participated in the murder and cover-up of a Boston police officer, John O'Keefe. Days later, on May 30th, 2023, Kearney published part 43 of his Canton cover-up series, wherein he discussed McCabe yet again, referring to her as horseface and reposting a video that Kearney previously took confronting McCabe and calling her, quote unquote, a cop killer. You know, I know a creator that was involved. He was involved in like something, right? Because he was a journalist. I'm not gonna say any names, but his channel got subpoenaed and had to be taken down from YouTube because it was like an ongoing long thing. So I don't know what's gonna happen here. Notably, the blog post, I don't know how that works in court, but it'll be interesting to see it for the first time, I guess. with a channel that I was involved in. Yeah, that's why you should say an opinion or allegedly. Allegedly. We're just reading this public document. Yeah. Notably, the blog post covered the denial of an ex parte harassment prevention order that McCabe sought against Kearney in Stoughton District Court based on his repeated public harassment of her. However, McCabe's HPO, which was the harassment prevention order, the request was not public information. Instead, Kearney received this information directly from Read's counsel, Yannetti, who sent a text message to Kearney that McCabe's request for an HPO had been made and denied. In particular, Yannetti wrote to Kearney, quote unquote, HPO denied. Then, on June 6, 2023, McCabe traveled with her husband to attend the children's sporting event in Billerica, Massachusetts. Kearney traveled to the same event at Read's behest with the purpose of accosting the McCabes, which he did in a video that he posted online. Kearney then wrote a blog post about the interaction stating, quote unquote, Jen and Matt McCabe do not deserve to live a normal life and pretend that they weren't involved in murdering a Boston police officer. In another video, Kearney again discussed his harassment of the McCabe family, stating, quote unquote, I went to her kid's lacrosse game and made a scene there and got kicked out because I kept calling her a cop killer. Ooh, that's what Lemon was talking about. It sounds like a little bit like JLR all over again, you know? At times, in my opinion. On June 23rd, 2023, Kearney met with Read and Jackson again in person. The purpose of this meeting was for Read, Jackson, and Kearney to meet with a national CBS News correspondent over dinner at a steakhouse in downtown Boston to discuss Read's criminal case. This meeting occurred the day after a rolling rally organized by Kearney took place, where nearly 50 cars drove in tandem through the streets of Canton, expressing their support for Read. During the rally, Kearney stopped at the homes of Brian Albert and McCabe, who was home at the time, shouting into a bullhorn that Brian Albert and McCabe were covering up O'Keefe's death. Kearney's behavior at the rally enjoyed the support of Read and her legal team. Indeed, the day of the rally, Yannetti messaged Kearney, quote unquote, thank you for your continued support. How do they have the text messages with Yannetti and Aidan? I guess he put it out there, or who's the mole is what I'm thinking. Who's the mole in Aidan's circle? Or some would say that maybe an ex or something. I don't know. I don't know anything. The next day, Kearney hosted his weekend live show on YouTube. During this show, Kearney stated that, quote unquote, Jen McCabe killed or helped kill. Let's keep it a buck. That's what she did. She killed John O'Keefe. He proceeded to question why O'Keefe's family was associating with McCabe by stating, quote unquote, Jen killed her uncle and then you're escorting her to the effing orientation, and Jen killed your son. She effing killed him. I must say, though, the O'Keefes have stood by with the McCabes and Alberts and Higgins. So I guess there's that, right? They don't believe, the family doesn't believe that they are the responsible ones. Meredith said she would, if he kept posting poorly about her, he gave her his whole phone extraction. You know what? This was dropped, if you ask me, at a very calculated time. With all of the other lawsuits Aidan's experiencing and not being teamed up with Meredith, his ex, who has that phone extraction, I'm curious how much more will be coming out. On August 9th, 2023, Kearney published part 96 of his Canton cover-up series. He began the blog post by explaining, quote unquote, The movement for justice for John O'Keefe and Karen Read continues to grow by the day. Although Turtleboy was the first media outlet to really dig deep into the story, it has taken on a life of its own, independent of our award winning journalism. The Facebook group dedicated to discussion of the topic has nearly 20,000 members and is one of the more active groups you will see on this platform. In his post, Kearney bragged about the fact that he was able to amass his followers with quote unquote well over 100 cars and at least 200 to 300 people scattered everywhere in front of the McCabe home. He included pictures of himself wearing a free Karen Read t-shirt next to someone wearing the t-shirt sold by Kearney. Kearney lambasted the Canton police chief by stating, quote unquote, "It's disgusting and pathetic that this public official is treating a cop killer like the victim of a crime. This is the problem. The McCabes and Alberts are treated as royalty in this town, and they know that the police will go out of their way to protect them. This is why they felt so emboldened to kill a man, frame a woman, and think that they could get away with it," Kearney stated. "It's painfully obvious to anyone with a brain that the McCabes and Alberts murdered John O'Keefe." The McAlberts had to file this as its 3-year statute of limitations. Oh. Oh my gosh. I feel like who's not suing? Like, I feel like now everyone's going to start suing everyone. Even more so. On September 5th, 2023, Kearney directed remarks in a YouTube video towards Chris Albert, the father of Colin Albert. He bragged, quote unquote, "I go down to your pizza shop and I stand out there for an hour. I yell shit about your son. I just shit all over your child, Chris. I go down there and I shit all over him and I accuse him of some of the most heinous things possible and I affect business. People don't want to go into your business because of the things that I'm saying. I'm telling cars going by what your family did and what you're being accused of and what you've done to cover this thing up and what a scumbag you are and how you don't pay your bills." Oh. Oh no, not the bills. Who's not paying their bills? Well, that's not good. By early September 2023, Read's team was concerned that the police were potentially going to charge Aidan with witness harassment. If that were to happen, Read's counsel, 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍, expressed concern to Kearney that if it happens, quote unquote, then a judge prohibits you from having contact with the witnesses. This prospect concerned Read, 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍, and Jackson since their fear silencing Kearney would impact the defendant's campaign against the plaintiffs. Indeed, on September 9th, 2023, 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍 messaged Kearney regarding the plaintiffs stating, quote unquote, "These bastards deserve all the scorn we are giving them." With Kearney silenced, the scorn Read intended to incite might diminish. Are Alan Jackson and David 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍 now going to sue these people? In addition to using Kearney, I like Alan Jackson and David 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍. So, I mean, minus the whole Karen Read thing, but in addition to using Kearney as a tool to seed the public disclosure with defamatory material, Read, through her counsel, also hired a private investigator, Sarah Ness. Ness had previously worked with Jackson in connection with his representation of a disgraced sex offender, Harvey Weinstein, and he was deployed in that case to discredit victims of Harvey's crimes. They're comparing it. I want someone to pay. Hey, whoever pays yours, send them over my way, okay? Thank you. On September 17th, 2023, at the direction of Read and Jackson, Ness visited the home of Higgins. I must have missed this in the midst of all the drama. Read and Jackson directed Ness to question Higgins and other witnesses, or maybe I just can't remember all the shit in this case. I think that's what it is. Read and Jackson directed Ness to question Higgins and other witnesses using tactics similar to those used against victims and witnesses in the Weinstein criminal trial. While Ness confronted Higgins, who Read and her counsel knew was represented by counsel at the time, Read and her counsel watched from a blacked out SUV with Read texting Kearney in real time about Ness's efforts. Quote unquote, sorry, in the car with lawyers, stirring shit up again. When Higgins refused to speak with Ness, Read texted Kearney again, this time seeking the address of Sarah Levinson, another witness who would ultimately testify against Read. Following Higgins' refusal to cooperate with Ness, the defendants directed additional defamation and defamatory conduct at him. As a federal law enforcement special agent with covert, quote unquote, undercover responsibilities, Higgins suffered profound damage to his career as a result of the defendant's false and widely publicized statements that Higgins was involved in O'Keeffe's murder. In addition, due to Read and Kearney's defamation, individuals have traveled to Higgins' residence for the purpose of taking photographs and videos. Higgins has been surveilled, and individuals inspired by Read and Kearney's defamation campaign have trespassed and vandalized his property. Oh, not good. See, this is when like journalism takes not a good turn, like showing up at people's houses, trying to hurt the kids. It's a nasty thing. It is. Hey, Shadi, and hey, Born Twice. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Where did I leave off? Kearney himself has personally harassed Higgins by visiting Higgins' residence on multiple occasions for the purpose of confronting him and generating content to be published on platforms that Aidan controls. On September 19th, 2023, Aidan hosted his weekday live show. In his show, Kearney stated, quote unquote, what I'm stating right now is I'm not saying this as a matter of opinion. I'm saying this as a matter of fact that Jen McCabe participated in killing and planning to kill and cover up the murder of John O'Keefe. I am saying that that is not my opinion. That is a fact. He went on to taunt McCabe by exclaiming that Jen McCabe participated in unaliving John O'Keefe. So sue me. Why don't you just sue me? Because you did it. Because she did it. That's why. Because she did it. Oh, no. Your own words are now coming back to bite you in the ass. This is exactly why I said Karen's behavior is sus. Innocent people don't act like this. I need to see it. I need to see the text messages. We need that celebrate extraction or whatever report. I need to see all of this. I mean, I'm assuming it's there because they're filing the civil lawsuit. Like, I don't know how much, they have. Apparently they have a lot of information, and apparently someone's been watching a lot of Aidan shows and documenting everything, taking notes, because that's a lot of shows. During the same live show, Kearney also called McCabe's brother-in-law, Bob Galvin, after someone sent Kearney $10 to his Cash App with Mr. Galvin's number. Kearney left a voicemail for Mr. Galvin in which he claimed, among other things, your sister-in-law, Jen, she done killed that mother effer. That is outrageous. Oh my goodness. Thrilled by the level of exposure and overall impact that Kearney's publications were having on Read's defamation campaign, Read messaged Kearney through Signal on September 29th, 2023, stating, quote unquote, look at what you've done to their reputation and to my jury pool. Colin Albert's business is the next casualty, just a matter of time. Read was referring to the public degradation of the reputations of, among others, the plaintiffs. Around this same time, Read and Kearney became administrators of the Facebook group, quote unquote, Justice for Officer John O'Keefe and Karen Read Turtleboy Official. As administrators, Kearney and Read maintain complete control over the Facebook group, including the ability to approve or deny posts, delete posts or comments, and approve or deny new members. The group became a feeding ground for defamatory and harassing posts made regarding the plaintiffs. Read personally posted in the group on several occasions, including instances where she shared confidential information regarding her criminal case that had not been previously made known to the public. I'm sitting here like thinking like, YouTube, all of these platforms are going to be subpoenaed. She's done. LOL, huh? Yo, I know who was every single stream of TV. It's wild. I thought she was innocent. WTF did I miss? Other than everything, old girl should have left the country. This is why it matters who you associate with online and stuff. Sometimes, it's hard to tell. You give people the benefit of the doubt. You really do. And you find out the hard way that those people are not so good after all. On March 12th, 2024, Kearney posted a 2-hour recap following one of the last court appearances before Read's first trial. In the video, Kearney stated, quote unquote, "We called them murderers because they are. They are. They murder John O'Keefe, and I will not shut up about that. You can call them witnesses all you effing want. They murder John O'Keefe. That is a fact. It is undeniable. We don't know who delivered that fatal blow, but they all effing did it." End quote. Kearney attempted to justify his harassment and defamation of the plaintiffs by claiming that they deserved it. For example, Kearney admitted that he harassed McCabe at her daughter's lacrosse game and attempted to justify that conduct as follows. He says, "Well, guess what? Jennifer McCabe murdered a Boston police officer. She doesn't have a right to not be asked questions in public about that. You murdered someone. You don't get just to walk around like none of this happened." Before launching the defamation campaign with Read against the plaintiffs, Kearney's YouTube channel only had 25,000 subscribers. Before the first trial, Kearney's followers have ballooned to 70,000 YouTube subscribers. Whoa. They're like, they're saying the Karen Read stuff built his channel. The jury didn't get to see this stuff. You wouldn't know unless you knew the Turtleboy live actions in real life. C, the profit model. Kearney's willingness to work with Read and his conduct is based on twin motives, greed and fame. Kearney's business model relies on his ability to attract an audience by spreading outrage and mistrust, including most centrally through his defamatory statements about the plaintiffs. It is a very lucrative business model. Kearney and Read have built an audience and personal celebrity by spreading these false narratives. Kearney holds himself out as a trusted reporter, regularly referring to himself as an award-winning journalist and a truth teller, when in fact, he is nothing more than a willing purveyor of vessel and for defamatory material that Read fed him to publish for her own selfish purposes. Once Kearney captures his audience attention with outrageous claims, he exploits their anger and mistrust by urging them to pay him money in exchange for products that echo the false worldview he promotes. In his internet-based shows and content, Kearney hawks merchandise exploiting the quote-unquote Canton cover-up. His dishonest characterization of events, quote unquote, a Boston cop possibly being involved in murdering another cop, followed by an elaborate cover-up designed to frame the murdered cop's girlfriend. A designing feature a Massachusetts license plate with the word framed as the number in a t-shirt featuring the text of Google search that Kearney has repeatedly lied about, to name a few. Kearney consistently hustles his followers to donate directly to him on his homepage and in his post. His YouTube features a quote-unquote defense fund where followers continue to send him money in the pursuit of defending free speech. Listen, they better start donating a lot more. He's gonna need it. He's gonna need it to fight all these lawsuits. And during his live streams, he shares the name and messages of people who donate to him directly while watching his content. For example, during one live stream, he listed that, quote unquote, Stephanie sends $10 and says, Brian Higgins car front of mailbox. How does that work? Help. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Jim Ferris Bueller sends $5 and says, hey, Liberis, that shirt's going to irritate your nips. Jason EMT sends $5. No comment. Thank you, Jason. Jason, EMT, .. Carrie sends $5 and says, what news station is covering the trial? All of them. All of them. Brooke sends $2.50, says, free Karen Read. And can you say, hi, Jennifer? Hi, Jennifer. Greg sends $50 and says, class of 94. We love you, John. Great to see that. Great to see that. Thank you very much, Greg. Okay. And Laura sends $10 and says, please wear that shirt to court Tuesday. So that's like what he's reading off what he calls turtle chats. After personally recognizing his followers, Kearney goes on to direct his other followers to donate to him at the link on his website or directly through Cash App. I'm wondering, is that not a violation of YouTube? I mean, I'm no YouTube police, but I never thought of that because he's putting it on YouTube, but they're sending it to his Cash App. I guess it's really not because we all do it, right? I know that on some platforms you can't do that though. Maybe I'm wrong. Karen doesn't need donos. She needs someone to pay her bar tab, says Lemon. Karen needs to leave the country. I don't know why she didn't, says Beautifully Broken. Karen needs donations. Hi, Jameen. Good to see you. Kearney goes on to direct. Oh, yeah, I already said that. Kearney's followers buy subscriptions, donate to him, purchase his merchandise, and continue to visit his website and YouTube page, all of which boost his attractiveness to advertisers. Oh, you know what? I'm confusing YouTube with Patreon. I think on Patreon or something, you can't like mention money apps or something. Someone told me that recently. Could be a lie. Could be false. I could be totally wrong. In my opinion, allegedly. Kearney has estimated his monthly income to be $45,000 to $50,000, which he attributes to his defamatory discussions of the Read case. Karen publicly defends this corrupt business model by explaining, quote unquote, well, it's capitalism. If he creates a service that people think is worth giving and their hard-earned money to, that's capitalism. That's their choice. He claims that people want to give him money. People want to buy Turtle Club subscriptions. People want to buy stuff from the store. Okay, so it's capitalism, according to him. In coordination with Read and at her behest, Kearney spread elaborate and false narratives about the plaintiffs because doing so attracted attention, personal notoriety, and a buying audience. He deliberately stokes social anxiety and political discord in his listeners because distrust in government and cultural tribalism motivates those listeners to buy his products. Kearney also sought production and movie deals to further monetize his highly public defamation and harassment campaigns against the plaintiffs. On July 1st, 2023, just 3 months after Kearney began working with Read to disseminate her false claims and harass witnesses, Kearney reported to Jackson that he had received an offer for Karen Read documentary from B17 Entertainment, a California production company. I feel like they really have it out for Karen Read too, you know? Isn't she suing everyone? That's why she's not leaving. Yeah. We read a lawsuit a couple months ago where she was suing the whole house, right, of people. So I haven't checked up on that. Was that thrown out? Oh no. There's a lot of lawsuits, man. I'm gonna have to really start making an Excel sheet, like, for sure. The trial of Karen Read. Read's first trial began with jury selection on April 16th, 2024. Kearney took his live stream on April 17th and wondered, quote unquote, if they can find jurors that aren't tainted already because Turtleboy is everywhere. He proceeded to claim that they can't find a jury in the United States of America anywhere, any county, anywhere, because Turtleboy is too big. Oh, Lord. Here we go. Karen thinks she can get a Netflix deal. Did you see her interview she did? No, I didn't even know she was trying to get on Netflix. Listen, I canceled my membership with Netflix. Yeah, I did. Don't come for me. one day I woke up and I was like, I'm sick of your shit. And I canceled it. But I do know the 𝗠𝗲𝗹𝗆𝗆𝗆 documentary is dropping. I think it comes out next week. Yeah. 𝗠𝗲𝗃𝗃 has a documentary, you guys. And I wish so bad that I could play it on a live. But Netflix is so like, they'll take the live down. I only fought one war with Netflix, and that was, what case was that? Oh, what's her name? The neighbor. I'm spacing it. It'll come to mind. I have a playlist. The Perfect Neighbor, the lady who shot the mom. I had to fight with them on a claim. But Netflix, you can't replay them on here. The O'Keefe sued her during second trial. It's still ongoing, and she filed a countersuit in that lawsuit. Oh my gosh. So she has a lawsuit with the O'Keefes that is ongoing, and this is happening. How do people sleep at night? I just want to talk about you guys. Like, that's a lot. I'm dealing with one lawsuit now with my boss. And let me tell you, it's a freaking headache. I'm going after my old boss for harassment. Anyways, that's a whole nother thing too, but I guess I should just start sharing my paperwork. On April 20th, 2024, Kearney interviewed an excused juror who had previously engaged with his content and become a member of his Facebook group. She explained that when she arrived for jury duty, she saw free Karen Read signs all along the street and people wearing pink in support of Read, and that she could hear the protesters inside the courthouse. She also said that everyone in the room said that they had previously heard about the case. During the live stream, Kearney played a clip covering the courthouse from Court TV. He proceeded to verbally attack the host, who expressed dissatisfaction with the conduct of Kearney and his followers, claiming it was disgraceful for them to harass the O'Keefe family. He proceeded to verbally attack the host. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, he proceeded... Kearney said, referring to McCabe, "You know what's disgraceful? Julie Grant. I'll tell you what's really disgraceful is when somebody who Googled how long to die in the cold at 2:27 a.m. because they wanted to make sure. Or they wanted to see and find out how long it would take for John O'Keefe to die in the snow. When a person like that shows up with O'Keefe family and rubs their shoulders and started support group called Peggy's Angels, that's disgusting." End quote. I didn't even know about that. Kearney went on to say that McCabe is, quote unquote, sick and sadistic and twisted, and that he has nothing but hatred to her, as I should, because I'm normal. I'm a rational person. Any rational person hates Jennifer McCabe and is disgusted by her because Jennifer McCabe is a pig. She's a pig. She's a cop-killing pig. He proceeded to mock the Court TV host again, saying, quote unquote, "She supports a cop-killing pig like Jennifer McCabe, who Googled how long to die in the cold." Oh. Ooh. On May 17th, 2024, following the first day of McCabe's trial testimony, Kearney posted to X that McCabe was a psychopath and that she knew exactly where O'Keefe was, dying in the cold on Brian Albert's front lawn. She plotted to put him there. On May 21st, 2024, Kearney published part 354 of his Canton cover-up series, in which he summarized the testimony of the plaintiffs and claimed that the plaintiffs, quote unquote, lied their way through their testimony. He claimed that they all have nearly identical, well-rehearsed stories, which isn't surprising because they've had 2 years to make sure they have them straight and their lives depends on consistency. He also explained that all of the plaintiffs were caught in lies at some point during their testimony. On June 7th, 2024, Kearney joined, quote unquote, the Morning Club YouTube channel to discuss the Read trial. After being praised for literally creating all of the fanfare surrounding Read's trial, Kearney touted that people believed, in response to Kearney's coverage of the case, that the plaintiffs engaged in a legitimate cover-up and framing of an innocent woman in order to protect some of the most unlikable people ever. Like, it's not like they're trying to cover up and protect likable, nice people. Like, they are protecting Jennifer McCabe, who nobody likes. She's like a Disney villain. She's so bad. And like, you're protecting her of all people? That's what Kearney said. Whew. There's a lot going on here. On June 22nd, 2024, Kearney hosted his weekend live show as Read's defense team began presenting their case. During the show, Kearney directed comments towards a member of the Albert family and said, "Your family murdered a cop, a human being, and then they covered it up." Then they blamed an innocent woman. This is not an opinion. It is a fact. It is an undeniable fact. The bigger injustice is that John O'Keefe was unalived by the McAlberts and left outside to die. In March of 2025, HBO released a 5-part docuseries covering Karen Read's first trial in depth, which featured interviews with Read, Jackson, and Yannetti filmed during Read's first trial. Episode 2 features a relationship that developed between Read and Kearney before and during trial. Yannetti admitted that they wanted media coverage of her case. Initially, there was no coverage, but according to Yannetti, quote unquote, the Karen Read case really started to blow up when Turtleboy started shining a light on Karen's innocence. Yannetti did not disclose that, as it was Read and her team who recruited Kearney to disseminate Read's false statements. You know, I just feel like I have a lot of questions here. Read admitted that her lawyer said that she could provide information to Kearney so long as it was public, but advised her not to speak with him directly. Nevertheless, she said she got nervous about who she was using as a third party, so she ended up developing a direct relationship with Kearney herself. They, quote unquote, started talking about the case probably once a day, 5-6 days a week. Read, however, failed to disclose to HBO that her counsel on her behalf were directly communicating with Kearney at the outset of the defamation scheme. In the same HBO series, one of Kearney's followers admitted that Kearney had spurred them to take public action. Another admitted, quote unquote, Turtleboy was the reason there was people outside the courthouse every single day. The documentary features footage of Kearney conceding that his purpose in canvassing the communities and creating a daily courthouse presence was to affect the jury pool. Kearney's followers were so incendiary that the judge created a 200-foot buffer zone around the house and ordered that no one carry any signs or wear clothing with the intent to influence what was happening during the trial. Nevertheless, Kearney's followers, who were steeped in his lies about the plaintiffs, showed up every day chanting, "Free Karen Read," and wearing pink as a symbol of their support. The run-up to Read's retrial. On July 1st, 2024, a mistrial was declared in Read's first trial after 8 jurors decided that Read was guilty of manslaughter, but 4 jurors disagreed. Following the deadlock, the Commonwealth announced its intention to retry the case. Kearney and Read persisted in their defamation campaign against the plaintiffs. For example, on July 22nd, 2024, Kearney hosted a live show from outside the courtroom during a pretrial hearing. The video, which is set outside the courthouse, depicts Kearney confronting a police officer who is directing Kearney away from the individual whom the court had restrained Kearney from contacting. Kearney proceeded to harass other supporters of the O'Keefe family outside the courthouse by saying, quote, "They're just supporting cop killers. They're supporting the cop killing McAlberts. That's what they're here to do. These are the cop killing McAlberts. These are the people supporting the cop killers who murdered John O'Keefe in cold blood. They schmurdered him, and they schmurdered John O'Keefe in cold blood." He asked the bystanders, "Are you proud to support these cop like the McAlberts?" He continued. "I didn't unalive someone like Jen McCabe, Brian Albert, and they all did. I didn't unalive anyone, but they did. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. They schmurdered him. They schmurdered John O'Keefe in cold blood," Aidan said. On July 24th, 2024, Kearney published part 382 of his Canton cover-up series. In this post, Kearney explained, quote, I've been fighting for justice for John for the last 15 months. I sacrificed my freedom for that. But because the O'Keefe family can't get over their hatred for Karen Read and they have too much pride to admit that they've been conned by John's killers, they want me to rot in prison. Kearney also explained that the reason he faced witness intimidation charges was, quote unquote, because I am standing up for justice for John and because I have questioned the people who the evidence shows unalived John. Jeez. I just can't with all of this. I think it's possible those jurors were too scared hearing the protesters to say guilty. I mean, come on, we won't lie. It was like crazy outside those courtrooms and everything going on. It was absolutely wild. On August 17th, 2024, Kearney hosted his weekend live show on YouTube. In his show, Kearney discussed a documentary about Scott Peterson's involvement in 𝗟𝐼cy Peterson's unaliving in 2002. Kearney stated, "That's how I view the McAlberts. The same way those reporters view Scott Peterson. I view the McAlberts. I didn't view the McAlberts as witnesses. I view them as unalivers because they are. Like, they're effing unalivers. They put this in my charging document, so let me say it again in case I wasn't clear the first 1,000 times that I've said this. The McAlberts unalived John O'Keefe. They did. The McAlberts unalived John O'Keefe because it wasn't Karen Read." On September 14th, 2024, Kearney hosted his weekend live show. Kearney stated, quote unquote, "Think of how much that cost the Commonwealth, all to protect Jennifer McCabe, all to protect her, an unaliver. Let me be very clear about this in case I haven't a million effing times. Jennifer McCabe is an unaliver. Like, full stop. That's it. She's a murderer. She did it. She actively participated in the unaliving of John O'Keefe. I can't stress that enough. I'm begging them to sue me if it's not true. They haven't done it yet. She actively participated in the crime of John O'Keefe." Well, here you are, served to you on a platter, Turtleboy. Looks like they listened. On October 18th, 2024, Read publicly acknowledged for the first time her longstanding relationship with Kearney. In an interview given to Dateline NBC, Read admitted to speaking with Kearney on the phone almost every day for like 20 minutes. On January 20th, 2025, Kearney published part 466 of his Canton cover-up series. In response to a claim by one of McCabe's friends that she was harassed by a turtle writer in public, Kearney stated, "The fact that Jennifer McCabe has to cover her face in public like this because everywhere she goes, people immediately see her face and recognize her as a cop is a great thing," says Kearney. On April 24th, 2025, ABC released an episode of Impact/Nightline in anticipation of Read's trial, which features interviews with Read and Jackson in it. In it, Read's attorney, Alan Jackson, states, referring to the plaintiffs, "There are people in that house that are actually responsible for his death and who unalived him. And there are others in the house who are covering up that unaliving." Jackson also specifically refers to McCabe as being involved in the cover-up. Quote, "Something was going on with John laying in that snow in that front yard. That means this was a cover-up. John was unalived inside that house. His body was placed outside and Jennifer McCabe knows that." End quote. Listen, I do have questions about why John was beat up. The injuries don't match the science, but I guess, I don't know. I don't think so, at least. Like, why did he have a head injury? You know, I don't know. I mean, I get it. She hit him with the car allegedly, but she had to have been going fast for him to get an injury like that. Yeah, these are Turtleboy's words. Now Jackson's. The retrial and acquittal of Karen Read. On April 1st, 2025, the second trial of Karen Read began with jury selection. On April 23rd, 2025, O'Keefe's mother testified. Kearney reacted on a weekday live show by stating, "She's on the side of evil." He argued that O'Keefe's mother is proudly friends with people who quite obviously killed her son. Like, if that were my mother and I was killed, my mother would be looking for answers. And she wouldn't be like, yeah, I'm just going to be easily manipulated. I mean, Jen McCabe is a master manipulator. She's real good at fooling stupid people. And she's very lucky that the guy she helped kill John O'Keefe was surrounded by a lot of stupid people. Like, there's a lot of stupid people in John's life, end quote. Oh, wow. I don't even think she's been able to leave, right? Because of all of these lawsuits. On April 25th, 2025, Kearney took to X in response to a post claiming that the Free Karen Read movement should be ashamed of the way they treated O'Keefe's mother. Kearney replied, "Your friends unalived this woman's son. Every pain she's feeling right now is a direct result of the McAlberts and Brian Higgins murdering John O'Keefe. You proudly call these people friends? Nothing you say or think matters at all." Despite quite literally engaging in divisive language, Kearney later posted on X, quote, the idea that the Canton community is divided is a lie. The media spreads to make it sound like there are two equal competing sides to the Karen Read case. There is no divide. There is the vast majority who knows the McAlberts unalived John O'Keefe. Read herself also published more defamatory statements regarding the plaintiffs during her retrial. On May 1st, 2025, following McCabe's testimony, Read spoke to reporters outside the courthouse about McCabe claiming, quote, "another witness, another instance of perjury, or instances, I'd say." Referring to McCabe, Read said, "She's lying." Then, on May 8th, 2025, Kearney went live outside of the courthouse wearing a t-shirt with a still of McCabe on the stand. He explained that he was walking the periphery of the buffer zone and hoped to not be in violation with a shirt on. He went around speaking to protesters outside the courthouse with people coming from as far as California and Georgia. People stopped to take pictures with him, and people handed him money, to which he responded, "People just give me cash. It's nice," he says. Reed knew that her statements regarding McCabe and others, like the same type of statements that she fed to Kearney, were untrue and were intended to deflect from her own culpability. During the retrial, the prosecution presented footage of an interview with Reed and Yannetti. During the interview, Reed acknowledged that she previously expressed concern to Yannetti that she was responsible for O'Keefe's death. Quote, "And when I hired David Yannetti, I asked him those questions the night of January 29th. Like, David, what if I don't know? What if I ran his foot over? Or what if I clipped him in the knee and he passed out and or went to care for himself and he threw up or passed out?" And David said, "Then yeah, you have some element of culpability." Moreover, during the Commonwealth's closing argument, the Commonwealth showed a clip from an interview with Reed in the HBO documentary. With a smirk on her face, Reed explains, the closest I must have was, did I hit him? I know I said I hit him, but did I really say it as many times as enforcement is claiming that I said it?" On June 4th, 2025, Kearney posted a video recapping day 27 of the Reed retrial. In response to the testimony of Brian Lofgren? Oh, I know I'm butchering that, sorry, but I remember him by Lucky. A plow driver who testified on the defense's behalf, Kearney said, quote, "I run Canton. I'm the mayor of Canton. I'm the most powerful person in Canton. Lucky you don't have to worry about them anymore. The big wolf is dead. I slayed them. The McCabes and Alberts are nothing." Referencing the McCabes and the Alberts, he continued, quote, "They're pissing their pants every single day, counting down the days of their freedom. Like Jennifer McCabe is every day. She's a free woman. She's grateful for her freedom because she knows that she's going to spend a significant amount of time in federal prison, and it's going to be glorious when that happens." end quote. Well, I don't see John McCabe in prison. Karen moved in with her parents and Diane MA. Yeah, but it's probably pointless for her to move out of the state 'cause she has so many lawsuits, right? Around there and there. Yeah, I know. Wild ATS. On June 18th, 2025, immediately following the conclusion of the retrial, Kearney was interviewed by NBC 10 in Boston. During the interview, he said, quote, "The people who murdered John O'Keefe are out there. They're the McCabes and the Alberts. And John O'Keefe went into their home and never came out of it alive. And they threw him on the lawn like trash." End quote. I just When asked if he felt responsible for the verdict, Kearney explained that he was responsible for the social media aspect of it. He also explained that he'd like to think that some of the evidence was presented to the jury in the court was a result of his journalism and his influence and his activism online. He also applauded himself for conducting standouts, putting up billboards all over Norfolk County for free Karen Read, and making it impossible for people to not know about the case. For people not to know about the case. Sorry. Kearney was also asked, "Who killed John O'Keefe?" To which he responded, "The people inside Brian Albert's house. Dude, I don't know who exactly delivered the fatal blow, but Brian Albert was in there. Colin Albert was in there. Brian Higgins was in there. And the dog was in there. And quite frankly, every single person inside the house who has remained silent is just as guilty as the people who delivered the fatal blows to John. They did it." End quote. On June 19, 2025, Kearney posted a live YouTube video discussing the retrial. Within the first 10 seconds of Kearney being on camera, he remarked that there were already over 10,000 people streaming the video. He hustled the listeners to subscribe to his page, and within the first 5 minutes, he had surpassed 143,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel. 35 minutes into the program, Kearney explained that over 20,000 people were watching the live stream and that it was the biggest show he ever had. He explained that if they had a message that they wanted him to read out loud to everyone, they could donate to him using the link attached to the chat, and they could pay whatever amount of money they want, and they could write a message. For example, an individual by the name of Oksana sent him $150 to say, quote, "You did it, Aidan. You did it. You stared down an entire system built on lies and corruption and intimidation, and you never blinked. Karen Read walks free." An individual named Allison sent him $10 to say, "I can't imagine the pride and emotion you felt, seeing all your hard work come to fruition." End quote. Hi, Badass Dodgers. Good to see you, love. Happy Thirsty Thursday. Yay, make me some dinner too. I had no choice. Oh, pisses me off when they blame the dog. I do want to know where the dog went. I do think justice for Chloe is critical. Listen, if your turtle chat ends up on here, that's actually funny, but see what I mean? See what I mean? Everything on YouTube is like out there. It's out there, man. During the same program, Kearney admitted that when the jurors came in after deliberating, but before announcing the verdict, two of the jurors looked to him and smiled at him. Kearney also admitted that he was invited to the celebration dinner with Read and her defense team after the verdict. At the dinner, Kearney and Read posed for the picture below, mocking Colin Albert. Kearney then posted the photograph on X. He acknowledged that he and Read had spoken about recreating the picture with the same caption over 2 years prior. Oh, here's the picture. Oh my gosh, that's wild because this morning he changed his profile pic to match the one on the left. Oh boy. Last two I'd F with. He is the caption. Wow. On November Nothing is funny about John O'Keefe dying. I'm just laughing at like the craziness behind all of this. Wow. On November 2nd, 2025, Kearney hosted his weekend live show in which he reacted to a podcast that had previously appeared on speaking about the Read case. In the podcast, Kearney admits that he, quote, protected Karen Read and that he lied to Boston Magazine about their relationship, end quote. He explained that Read's team did not want to publicly, he explained that Read's team did not, quote, want to publicly be associated with him. They wanted him to do the work of getting the story out there about what the McAlberts have done, end quote. He admitted that he understood it would be dangerous if her team were publicly tied to him, but that privately they praised him and they fully supported him. In the same video, Kearney also admitted that he approached McCabe in the past to ask her questions at the direct request of Read, Jackson, and Yannetti. On January 12th, 2026, oh shit, 2026, coming in hot. We're officially living in the Twilight Zone. Listen, at this point, it seems like he doesn't care, says Evie. Does he ever freaking quit? I don't know, girl. I have questions, those same questions. Like, how many lawsuits can you have in 1 year? Well, according to JLR, you can definitely file 4,000 of them in your lifetime. But, I mean, this is outrageous. On January 12th, 2026, Read participated in her first podcast interview since her criminal trial ended with Rotten Mango. Oh, we watched that here together. It's on the playlist. Here we go with Rotten Mango. Oh, no. When asked, quote, what do you think happened to John O'Keefe? Read responded that he entered the house at 34 Fairview and much sooner than later met his demise. She bluntly concluded that someone in that house killed John O'Keefe, referring to the plaintiffs. Oh, Chet. The Rotten Mango episode's gonna go into court. The impact of Kearney and Read's conspiracy. Every day since April 18th, 2023, when the defamation campaign began, the plaintiffs and their families have been harassed and tormented as a result of Kearney and Read's unlawful conspiracy to defame them. The plaintiffs have become prisoners in their own communities, besieged by Kearney and others who have been duped by Kearney and Read to believe that the plaintiffs are murderers. Defendants have deliberately employed these false narratives about O'Keefe's unaliving and the plaintiffs' families as part of the marketing scheme that has brought Kearney substantial personal income. Kearney has an audience of hundreds of thousands of followers. He has purposely published statements by other people who falsely assert that the plaintiffs are responsible. As a result of defendants' campaign, the plaintiffs have been forced to endure malicious and cruel abuse at the hands of ruthless and unscrupulous people. On a regular basis, the plaintiffs have faced physical confrontation and harassment at their personal residences, their place of business, and their children's extracurricular activities. The plaintiffs have also sustained a barrage of harassment and verbal assaults on social media. Throughout Read's trials, Kearney and his followers harassed the plaintiffs as they reported to court to serve as witnesses. The harassment was so extreme that the judge ordered a buffer zone around the courthouse to protect those inside. Kearney and his followers chanted, "Cop killers," as the plaintiffs walked by and shouted, "Free Karen Read," all day. The plaintiffs have had to undertake efforts to protect themselves and their identities. Their families' place of business have been targeted, and Kearney has stalked them at their children's extracurricular activities, causing fear and emotional trauma to the plaintiffs and their families. Kearney admitted publicly that one of the goals of his false, outrageous, defamatory statements about the plaintiff was not only to portray the plaintiff as those responsible for O'Keefe's murder, but also to taint the jury pool for Read's trial and to benefit financially from the publicity. Count 1, defamation and defamation per se. The paragraphs above are incorporated and realleged as if fully forth herein, and repeatedly publishing false statements asserting or reasonably understood to be asserting that the plaintiffs were responsible for the unaliving of John and a cover-up of their purported role in that murder, Read published numerous defamatory statements both directly and through her accomplice, Kearney. Read's statements were false. The plaintiffs did not unalive John O'Keefe, did not participate in any conspiracy to unalive O'Keefe, and did not engage in any cover-up of O'Keefe's deaths, and did not frame Read for the murder. Read knew her statements were false because she was present when O'Keefe was struck by her vehicle, made multiple admissions to first responders that she hit O'Keefe, and acknowledged to her own attorney that she may have some element of culpability in his death. These publications were not only individually defamatory, but also part of a continuous course of conduct starting in 2023 and continuing through today, stating, asserting, implying, and suggesting that the plaintiffs were responsible for the death of John O'Keefe and engaged in a cover-up by, in part, framing Read for O'Keefe's death. Oh my God. What are you guys thinking? What are you guys thinking? No. Really? Okay, we might have to go live about that after this. The statements contained in Read's campaign of harassment and abuse constituted defamation per se. The harmful nature of the defamatory statements is self-evident. The defamatory statements implicate the plaintiffs in a heinous criminal conduct. False implications of criminal conduct constitute classic defamation. Read's statement were of and concerning each of the plaintiffs. She repeatedly identified the plaintiffs by name, and her audience understood the defamatory statements to refer specifically to the plaintiffs. The defamatory statements were published to third parties, including Kearney's hundreds of thousands of followers across multiple social media platforms, blog readers, podcast listeners, and television viewers. Read's defamatory statements have injured the plaintiff's reputation and images and have exposed the plaintiffs to public and private hatred, contempt, and ridicule. These false publications have caused the plaintiffs actual to sustain and substantial damages. Read published her outrageous, cruel, and malicious lies about the plaintiffs negligently, with knowledge that the statements were false or with reckless disregard as to whether they were true or not. These acts of defendant Read resulted in damage to the plaintiffs. Count 2, as to defendant Aidan. Paragraphs 1 through 116 are incorporated and realleged as set fully forth herein. In repeatedly publishing false statements asserting or reasonably understood to be asserting that the plaintiffs were responsible for the unaliving of O'Keefe and a cover-up of their purported role in that crime, Kearney published numerous defamatory statements. Kearney's statements were false. The plaintiffs did not unalive John O'Keefe, did not participate in any conspiracy, and did not engage in the cover-up of the death, and did not frame Karen Read. Kearney knew or had reason to know his statements were false because he received his information exclusively from Read and her legal team, who were motivated to deflect blame from Read, and he made no independent journalistic effort to verify the accuracy of the crime accusations before publishing them, and he repeatedly ignored or dismissed evidence contradicting his narrative, and he admitted that he protected Karen Read and lied about their relationship to conceal his source of information. These publications were not only individually defamatory, but also part of a continuous course of conduct starting in 2023 and continuing through today, stating, asserting, and implying and suggesting that the plaintiffs were responsible for the unaliving of O'Keefe and engaged in a cover-up by, in part, framing Read for O'Keefe's death. The statements contained in Kearney's campaign of harassment and abuse constitute defamation per se. The harmful nature of the defamatory statements is self-evident. The defamatory statements implicate the plaintiffs in heinous criminal conduct. False implications of criminal conduct constitute classic defamation per se. Kearney's statements were of and concerning each of the plaintiffs. He repeatedly identified the plaintiffs by name, and his audiences understood the defamatory statements to refer specifically to the plaintiffs. The defamatory statements were published to third parties, including Kearney's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers across multiple social media platforms, blog readers, podcast listeners, and television viewers. Kearney made these defamatory statements in an effort to increase his viewership and to profit financially. Kearney's defamatory publications readily identified the plaintiff to hundreds of thousands of people. The defamatory publications would broadcast to hundreds and thousands of people. Kearney's defamatory publications have injured the plaintiff's reputations and images and have exposed the plaintiffs to public and private hatred, contempt, and ridicule. These false publications have cost, substantial damages. In light of his prior experience with similar sorts of negligent, reckless, and false statements, Kearney knew that his publications would cause the plaintiffs to suffer harassment and potential violence. Kearney broadcast his outrageous, cruel, and malicious lies about the plaintiffs negligently, with knowledge that the statements were false or reckless, with disregard as to whether they were true or not. I have to sneeze. This is wild. Count 3, aiding and abetting. Paragraphs 1 through 116, as well as paragraphs 126 through 138 above are incorporated. Defendant Read knowingly, recklessly, negligently, and maliciously aided and abetted the foreseeable, wrongful, and tortious conduct of defendant Kearney against the plaintiffs described above, thereby substantially assisting and encouraging such conduct. Among other things, Read continuously and intentionally provided the defendant Kearney with non-public and or confidential information about her criminal case and the plaintiffs, whether directly or through an intermediary, to direct, assist, and encourage defendant Kearney's tortious conduct. Count 4, aiding and abetting as to Aidan. Amongst other things, Kearney continuously and intentionally communicated with Read and her legal team to secretly gather non-public and or confidential information about Read's criminal case and the plaintiffs to direct, assist, and encourage this conduct. As direct and proximate result of defendant Kearney's wrongful conduct, the plaintiffs have been injured and damaged as described above and are entitled to recover compensatory and punitive damages from Kearney. Listen, hi, Kat Randall. Good to see you. If he doesn't win this, he's going to end up owing all of these people so much money, you guys. Count 5, intentional infliction of emotional distress as to defendant Read. Read's conduct was extreme and outrageous. Read's conduct was extreme and outrageous because she orchestrated a coordinated campaign to falsely accuse the plaintiffs of unaliving and conspiracy to frame her, knowing these accusations were false. Read deliberately used an intermediary and encrypted communications to funnel false statements to Kearney for maximum public dissemination, hired a private investigator previously associated with Harvey Weinstein to confront plaintiffs, and celebrated the destruction of plaintiffs' reputation while monetizing the resulting publicity. Karen's conduct exceeded all bounds of decency because she knowingly destroyed the reputations and lives of innocent people to deflect attention away from her own culpability and O'Keefe's death. As a direct and proximate result of Read's conduct, the plaintiffs suffered emotional distress, including but not limited to anxiety, fear for their personal safety and the safety of their families, damage to personal and professional relationships, and the inability to participate in normal daily activities without fear of harassment or confrontation. The defendant's conduct was so outrageous in character and so extreme in degree as to go beyond all possible bounds of decency to be regarded as atrocious and utterly intolerable in a civilized community. Emotional distress as to Aidan. In broadcasting his campaign of outrageous and false statements about the plaintiffs, Kearney intended to inflict emotional distress, or knew or should have known that the emotional distress was likely the result of his conduct. Kearney's conduct was extreme and outrageous because he published over 545 blog posts and countless videos falsifying, accusing plaintiffs of murder, stalked and confronted plaintiffs at their home, workplaces, and children's extracurricular activities, publicly released plaintiffs' personal identifying information, including social security numbers, home addresses, and telephone numbers, organized mobs to gather outside plaintiff's home, called the plaintiffs derogatory names, including cop, you know what, pig, and horse face, left harassing voicemail for plaintiffs and their family members, and encouraged his followers to harass and confront the plaintiffs. Kearney sustained a multi-year harassment campaign designed to torment the plaintiffs and profit from their misery, constitutes conduct that exceeds all bounds of decency. The emotional distress sustained by the plaintiffs was severe. As a direct and result of Kearney's conduct, the plaintiffs suffered severe emotional distress, including but not limited to anxiety, fear for their personal safety and safety of their families, depression, humiliation, damage to personal and professional relationships, and the inability to participate in normal activities without fear of harassment or confrontation. Kearney's conduct was so outrageous in character and so extreme in degree as to go beyond all possible bounds of decency and be regarded as atrocious. In light of his prior experience with similar types of negligent, false, and reckless statements, defendant Kearney knew his publications would cause the plaintiffs to suffer harassment and violence. Count 7, aiding and abetting infliction of emotional distress. Okay, defendant Read knowingly, we know that, with legal malice, aided and abetted the foreseeable, wrongful, and torturous conduct of defendant Kearney against the plaintiffs as described above, thereby substantially assisting and encouraging such conduct. Among other things alleged herein, Read continuously and intentionally provided defendant Kearney with non-public or confidential information about her criminal case and the plaintiffs, whether direct or through an intermediary, in effort to assist and encourage defendant Kearney's tortious conduct. Count 8, aiding and abetting emotional infliction as to Aidan. Okay. Among other things alleged herein, Kearney continuously and intentionally communicated with Read and her legal team through encrypted means to secretly gather non-public or confidential information about Read's criminal case and the plaintiffs in effort to assist and encourage defendant Read's conduct. Count 9, negligent infliction of emotional distress. The plaintiff's emotional distress was severe enough that it resulted in illness or bodily harm, including but not limited to anxiety, depression, sleep disturbances, and other physical manifestations of severe physical trauma. Ooh. Thanks for being here, Beautifully Broken. Hello, Corey. Good to see you. Mass doesn't have a monopoly on the Commonwealth. I live in the Commonwealth. The devil's deep, that's for sure. Count 10, emotional distress. Oh, I was going to say, with the claims of depression, sleep disturbances, and all of that, there must be some medical reports, of psychologist visits and whatnot. We're almost done here, guys. Count 10, emotional distress. Aidan Kearney's campaign of outrageous, cruel, and malicious lie created an unreasonable risk of causing the plaintiff's severe emotional distress. The plaintiff's emotional distress was severe enough that it resulted in psychological trauma, etc. The plaintiffs have suffered actual and substantial damages. Count 11, aiding and abetting negligent infliction of emotional distress as to Karen Read. Okay, among other things, Read continuously and intentionally provided, okay, we already read that part, with non-public or confidential information. As a direct and proximate result of the defendant Read's wrongful conduct, the plaintiffs have been injured and damaged as described above and are entitled to recover damages. Count 12, aiding and abetting negligent, okay, Aidan Kearney. He intentionally communicated. Okay, we got that. Count 13, civil conspiracy. Holy they 14 counts. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. 14 counts. Paragraphs 1 through 193 are okay. The defendants acting in concert with each other conspired by concerted action to pursue a campaign of defamation, harassment, abuse, and intimidation, resulting in emotional distress. The defendants formed an agreement, whether express or implied, to defame the plaintiffs and through their intentional, reckless, and negligent conduct to inflict severe emotional distress on them. The agreement is evidenced by Read's use of intermediaries and encrypted communications to funnel information and false statements. Kearney's admission that he received information from Karen and her legal team. Read's praise and encouragement of Kearney's defamatory publications, the coordination timing of publications to coincide with court proceedings, and their shared financial and strategic interest in the defamation campaign, and Read and Kearney's joint efforts to conceal the relationship from the public. Count 14, Massachusetts unfair trade practices. Kearney, in the course of trade or commerce, unethically, oppressively, immorally, and unscrupulously developed, propagated, and disseminated outrageous and malicious lies about the plaintiffs and their family members, and he did so for profit. Kearney operates a commercial enterprise through which he monetizes content by selling subscriptions, merchandise featuring the plaintiffs' names and likeness, and advertising by soliciting donations. Kearney's defamatory statements about the plaintiffs were integral to his commercial business model and were designed to attract paying customers and generate revenue. The campaign of lies, abuse, and harassment were a deceptive and unfair practice and offended public policy. Kearney's conduct constitute unfair methods of competition and unfair or deceptive acts or practices in the conduct of trade or commerce within the meaning of MGL 93A. Kearney's reprehensible conduct caused substantial injury to the plaintiffs that is not outweighed by any countervailing benefits to consumers or competition, and that the plaintiffs themselves could not have reasonably avoided. Kearney's monetization of defamatory content about private individuals constitutes an unfair business practice. Plaintiffs are consumers, and Kearney's actions cause them to suffer insignificant damages, to their money or property. Kearney's conduct was a foreseeable cause of and substantial factor causing the plaintiff's injury. Kearney broadcast his outrageous, cruel, and malicious lies about the plaintiffs negligently or with knowledge that the statements were false or with reckless disregard as to whether or not they were true. His conduct was willful and knowing, entitling the plaintiffs to an award of double or treble damages pursuant to MGL 93A. Kearney deliberately built a commercial enterprise around defaming the plaintiffs, knowing his statements were false or acting with reckless disregard for their truth or falsity. Plaintiffs through their counsel serve a demand letter on Kearney at least 30 days prior to the filing of this complaint. Oh, so he got a demand letter. Did we know that? I didn't know that. Did he cover that? Did I miss that? Or was he quiet about it? I can't keep track of everything going on with them. Served a demand letter 30 days prior to this. So he's had it for 30 days. Detailing the facts of the cause of action with reasonable specificity. Request for relief. Enter judgment in favor of the plaintiff's count, award damages in an amount to be determined at trial, but to exceed at least his court's jurisdictional limit, including double or treble damages, award punitive damages in the amount to be determined at trial, attorney's fees, cost, expenses, litigation, award any such other equitable and declaratory relief as the court deems proper. Plaintiff demands a trial by jury on all issues so triable. Dated today, Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert, Colin Albert, and Brian Higgins. There it is. Yo, this is wild. How do you respond to that when it's all on your live streams? This is crazy. It's insane. I think he is effed here. There it is. There you have it. There you have it. This will most definitely be going to trial. And we'll most definitely be covering it. There it is, 50 pages. What do you guys think? Let me know. For the replay viewers, let me know in the comments. This is a lot, and unfortunately everything is online, and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I guess they can settle, right? Without going to trial? Or is that not possible here? Because he might have to do time? I don't know. The only way for TB to reply is to get his checkbook and start writing those zeros. Ugh, but he would have to off freedom of speech. USA, says Kat Randall. This is why it's going to trial, because no one's writing anybody checks. They're going to want this to go to trial. A civil trial. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Well, we'll see what happens. Yeah, I know. I can't wait to see what happens too. And we will also be reading his affidavit. I know it's like two different things going on. Jeez. Like the hearing from last night was one of his ex-girlfriends. This is not regarding the ex-girlfriend, but we are going to read the affidavit with that Turtleboy wrote about the ex-girlfriend. That one is also, I think, like 50 pages. So we'll read that tomorrow. Freedom of speech has responsibilities and consequences. It actually does. I agree with both. Kat Randall says freedom of speech, and Lemon says, yes, it does have responsibilities and consequences. Even on YouTube. That's why, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Anyways, shout out to you guys for being here. Almost 2 hours. Dang. That I didn't think I would get through it all right now, but we did. So I appreciate you guys for being here. And 𝗲𝗍 for becoming a member. I know there's somebody, who was it? Was it Lemon? That said there's an update in the Celeste Hernandez case. Is there? Okay, yeah, there is. That's why we stick to the documents. Yes. We don't do none of that nasty behavior here. I know some might say I'm boring, but I refuse to be caught up in all that bullshit. I care about my freedom and where my money goes. And I'm not here to dox anyone and hurt anybody. So there's that. Watch few people on YouTube. Okay. Thank you, badass, for being here. I appreciate you. Nuts. Okay, so we're gonna end this live stream. We'll continue with Turtleboy tomorrow. We have a bunch of stuff to cover tomorrow. She lives on Love Street, lingers long on Love Street. That's right, Kat Randall. We stay classy here. You're not born. Oh, thank you, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. I know I'm not, we are due for an after dark for some fun, but I want to do that over on the second channel. That's why I respect you, truth only. Thank you, Janie. That really means a lot, really, what you guys are both saying, all of you, because I really could sit up here and be real nasty, like, and show receipts, and I really can. But that's really not who I am and not why I'm here. So maybe we can do that on the second channel, which is for bad decisions, brains and bad decisions. But you'll never catch me up here body shaming anyone I know, trying to dox people, or hurting someone's family or kids. No, I'm just not about that. But sign up to the second channel, Brains and Bad Decisions, all one word. I seen it. I still love it. Oh, seen what? You're real and stay classy. Thank you. I look terrible in orange. Yellow is my color. Yeah, no, I don't look good in orange either. I seen it, but you deleted it. Go sub. Yes, go sub. I'm gonna maybe make live right after this. Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate you. For the Celeste. Can we get a link? I'm lazy. Yeah, you can actually. I have been covering the Celeste and the Celeste Hernandez case, so I definitely want to cover this tonight. I might not make a thumbnail, but just come on over. We'll start viewing, I guess, what we can. I doubt that anybody has is there documents already? Jeez, maybe. I will share the link right now. And we are going to do a members only live this weekend too. So if you're not already a member and you want to be there, you already know the drill. There is a link. If it's not clickable, Just search brains and bad decisions. Yes, I want to see that. I can't believe he's guilty. I knew it. You got pissed one morning. At you, beautifully? When? Um, it's funny. Sorry if I was at you. I don't think it was at you though. I subbed. Thanks, Lemon. I want to see that. I can't believe. I know. I know. I've been waiting for this too, for Celeste, for justice for Celeste. And also, I can take a flight there, no problem. So if he goes to trial, which I'm assuming he will, I want to be there. I do. I want to be there for the David trial. So with that being said, thank you guys for being here and listening to me read. I will schedule a Celeste live here shortly right after this, and I will see you guys over there. Remember, there's a playlist for everything. So I know I have a lot of videos, but I do try to put them all on a playlist so it's easy to access too. Thank you, badass. Oh yeah, beautifully broken. If it was a few months ago, it's probably just irrelevant now, but never at you, beautifully. And thank you, Kat Rondell, for coming in. Crease, badass, beautifully broken. Janie, Lemon, Asani was in here earlier. Debbie, and shout out to all the replay viewers as well. And Psycho, of course, can't forget Psycho. I'll see you guys shortly on the next live. Thank you for being here.